One of the most revered and romanticized eras in American history is the Western frontier expansion, most commonly known as the Wild West, celebrated in novels, television series, and Hollywood movies. The Wild West is an American strength and grit story that all of her citizens should hold dear to heart. But one major part of that era has been mostly left out of the popular culture that comes with the Wild West era, is that one in every four cowboys were black men and women. The bigger-than-life characters such as Buffalo Bill, Pat Garrett, Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp, the list goes on and on. But there was a whole other group of men and women who'd herded cattle, drove stagecoaches, rode the rodeo, fought in wars, arrested numerous criminals, ran whole towns, and performed in Wild West shows whose guts, grit, and skills were well known in their day, but are often lost in history books and popular entertainment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are the great cowboys of African descent. While popular legend depicts the 20-year golden age of the American West from 1866 to 1886, with great cattle drives led by tough, grizzled white men, the reality is those determined white men often worked side by side with equally tough and determined black, Mexican, and Native American cowhands. Many black cowboys were former slaves who took their chances riding the frontier, though riskier, rather than working on farms. Black cowboys who were still slaves were treated with far more respect and dignity than their counterparts working on plantations. Since by the very nature of the job, cowboys needed to be independent, trustworthy, and once in the ranks, all cowboys, regardless of race or ethnicity, lived by the cowboy code of taking responsibility, working as a team, protecting each other in harrowing and tumultuous circumstances. It didn't matter the color of the hand that reached out to save your life. That's not to say that prejudice or discrimination did not exist, even after the abolition of slavery. But black and white cowboys were able to bridge their differences way easier than those in the East and in other areas of society. What mattered was getting the job done, and many blacks were drawn to the cowboy life and assimilated well because they were skilled at working cattle in their former home countries of West Africa. But still, it was likely the black cowboys were assigned the most dangerous jobs, breaking wild or young horses, and being first to lead cattle across rapids or deep rivers. Indeed, they played a major role in shaping this great nation of ours, America the Beautiful. In this episode, we're going to touch on four of the more popular black Americans that graced the great frontier. Bass Reeves, born in 1838, one of the most notable black Americans in the Wild West, was the late, great U.S. Marshal Bass Reeves, arguably the greatest law enforcement officer this country has ever produced. U.S. Marshals were instrumental in maintaining law and order in the Old West. Bass Reeves was the first African American deputy U.S. Marshal to patrol the essential lawless Indian Territory west of the Mississippi River. Born into slavery, Reeves fled north from Texas during the Civil War and lived among the Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole tribes, learning their ways and their languages. When slavery was abolished in 1865, he moved to Arkansas, became a farmer, married, and over the years had 11 children. In 1875, U.S. Marshal James Fagan, which himself fought in the Mexican-American War, fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War, being his home state was Arkansas, and was subsequently imprisoned by the Union forces. And after his release in late 1865, he became one of the first U.S. Marshals that fought for the Confederacy. Being that both men were in Arkansas, word reached Fagan that it was highly intelligent for him to find this steadfast, self-freed slave, which is Bass Reeves, which he was highly intelligent himself. He was highly adept at speaking several Indian languages and was a man of honor, while also independently building a homestead in Arkansas. James Fagan went and met with Reeves personally to graciously ask him to be the first federal deputized black law enforcement officer. And soon after that invitation, Reeves hung up the overalls and pinned on his badge. He served 32 years as a federal peace officer in Indian Territory, and at retirement he was awarded to have arrested more than 3,000 felons. Even though, from reports during that time, the number of arrests he made was significantly higher than that. Surely, one of the most difficult was tracking it, but he was also brought his own son to justice, Benny, for murdering his wife. After retiring from the Marshal Service at age 68 in 1907, Reeves joined the Muskogee, Oklahoma Police Department, but failing health forced him to permanently retire just 2 years later. Historian Art Burton agrees that Reeves was the inspiration for the character of the Lone Ranger. Burton makes this argument based on the sheer number of people Reeves arrested without taking any serious injury, coupled with the fact that many of these arrested were incarcerated in the Detroit House of Correction, the same city where the Lone Ranger plays were broadcast on WXYZ. But of course, some historians of the time dispute this theory. The next time you're at a rodeo and watch a cowboy leap off his horse and wrestle a steer to the ground, you could thank William Bill Pickett. He's known for inventing what is now the popular event of steer wrestling. So when you hear the negative stereotype often masked as a comedic joke, whether by black Americans or another race, all people should know that those negative stereotypes and connotations that black Americans face about the great outdoors, us not enormously contributing in the exploration, civilizing, and domesticating this great land, are simply and completely false. And this great man is just one of the many that embodies my previous statement. Born of former slaves, Pickett was the second of 13 children and began his cowboy life right after 5th grade. So let's take a quick second to wrap our mind about being basically an 11-year-old black American boy in Western late 1800s America and being capable of having the guts and the focus to pull that off. The great William Bill Pickett shall not be forgotten. Throughout his life, he gave exhibitions in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, England, and he went on to become the first black cowboy movie star. In 1972, he was inducted into the National Rodeo Hall of Fame, and in 1989, inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame and the Museum of the American Cowboy. Sadly, because of segregation during his lifetime, he was not permitted to compete with whites on the rodeo circuit. Sometimes he would claim to be an Indian in order to enter events, not solely just to secretly show what a man of color can do in that field, but to still be able to feel and explore the natural bond he had with some of the most powerful animals that Mother Nature blessed this great land with. At 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, toting a pair of 6-shooters and a shotgun, smoking a foul homemade cigar, even the burliest man would think twice about getting into a fight with Mary Fields. The woman was fierce, feisty, with a short, explosive temper that often led to fist flying and gunshots ringing. Born a slave in Tennessee, she made her way to Cascade County, Montana as a free woman years after the Civil War ended, seeking a better life and some adventure. Once in the city of Cascade, a group of Ursuline nuns doing mission work hired her to do the heavy lifting. She chopped wood, did stonework, and rough carpentry. She was adept at hitching and driving horses and mules, so she would often go on supply runs to the train stop and the cities of Great Falls and Helena. Her time at the mission came to an end when a male co-worker complained that a black woman at that, made $2 more per month than he did. Patience not being one of her virtues, Mary confronted the man, which led to an all-out gunfight, with that man suffering a minor injury and the bishop's clothes that were hanging on the line looking like Swiss cheese for all the bullet holes. Mary's next job earned her the nickname Stagecoach Mary. In 1895, she became the first African American to deliver the United States mail, and the tough, determined woman found her calling. She soon gained a reputation for delivering the letters and packages in any weather, over the most rugged terrain, and fending off stagecoach robbers by any means necessary. Aboard her trusty mule, Moses, she trekked through icy blizzards and sweltering heat to get to isolated miners, cabins, or outposts, delivering land claims and other important documents. Because she was so reliable, getting mail to its destination, she was a key player in helping develop central Montana. She kept up this pace until she was 70 years old. But the job had started to take her toll, so she retired. Realizing she still needed an income, at that age 70, she still opened a laundry service, Stagecoach Mary Laundry. Born a slave in Tennessee, Nat Love had an advantage over many men, black and white, of his time. He could read and write. He longed for life on the range. When he found a ranching outfit in Texas that employed several black cowboys, he asked the trail boss for a job. The boss agreed. If he could break the wildest horse in the herd, good eye. Another noted black cowboy, Bronco Jim, was also with the outfit. He offered a bit of advice. Love survived the wildest ride of his life and got himself a job. Throughout his life, he rode through harsh weather, fought Indians, learned to shoot with dead accuracy, worked with the Mexicans, and learned to speak Spanish fluently. When a cattle drive brought him to Deadwood City in Dakota Territory during the 4th of July Festival in 1876, he and 5 fellow black cowboys entered a competition for a $200 prize. Earning that prize was no easy feat. Each contestant had to rope, throw, tie bridles, and saddle and mount a wild Mustang in the shortest time. Next, the man was to shoot targets at a distance of 100 and 250 yards using a rifle, then a pistol. So guess who won that prize money? You guessed it, the great Nat Love. And he earned a nickname given to him by the townspeople, Deadwood Dick. These are just a few of the hundreds of black Americans that transversed and helped shape the Great Wild West. In future episodes, we will highlight a numerous amount of these great people, along with diving deeper into some of the first-hand accounts of some of the treachery, bravery, and ambitious-driven decisions that helped shape this great country. Thank you for all your support. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And again, thank you for all your support.